Okay, good evening. Nice to see all of you. And we're continuing with Hilchot Yesode Hatora. We have the material there. And I would just want to say a word about Yesode Hatora. What is the word in Hebrew? Yesod. So Yesode is the plural form of Yesod. What does the word Yesod mean? So Yesod means a foundation. Correct, a foundation. So for example, you want to build a building. So you can build a building. But if you don't put a foundation, if you don't dig a foundation first, the building, well, it might go up, but it'll crumble. Eventually it'll crumble, right? So what is the idea of Yesod? Yesod means that it's easy to build a building. It's more challenging to build a building that will stay up, right? Right? So we have our lives, and during the course of our lives, we have different challenges that we have to deal with, and these challenges, they can bring down the building. So the idea of Yesod means we want to continue following the Torah, we want to practice the mitzvot, but in order to do that, we need a foundation. And what is that foundation? That foundation is a particular intellectual outlook and particular axioms that we accept as Jews. Once you have those axioms that you accept, then you can have the building upon it, right? So that's why it's so important to study Yesode Hatora, because what we're really doing is we're reprogramming our thinking so that we can continue in our lives as Jews and have it be meaningful and permanent, right? So sometimes we lack the permanence, sometimes we lack the meaning. We grow older, our ideas change, we begin to lose our way. But when you have the Yesodot, when you have the foundation, you have a permanence. You get it? So that's the idea of Yesode HaTorah. That's why it's so important to study these foundations. And I want to just review what we said last week, because it was important just to recollect it, so that when we start this, we have that connection, right? So last week we discussed how the idea of Masui Rishon. What does Masui Rishon mean? Masui Rishon means there is someone that comes before the existence of the universe. There is an existence that comes before the existence that we know. So we live in this particular universe, physical state, galaxies, stars, but there's something before. That's called Masui Rishon, the first existence. And many scientists acknowledge that there was this first existence. He's called God, he's called the Creator, because he created the world. That's acknowledged by many scientists. But these scientists all said, yeah, he created the world, but then he left it. And why did he leave it? Do you remember the reason? Why did this Creator leave the universe he created? And the reason is because it's such a perfect creation. We don't need him anymore. So anybody have an expensive watch? You have an expensive watch. A watch works perfectly. Do you need the watchmaker with you all the time? Well, if you need the watchmaker with you, that means your watch isn't such a good watch, right? Right, so we buy the watch. We want the watch to be working well without the watchmaker. So similarly, the universe is like an amazing watch. It works great. And you remember we read Robert Boyle, a scientist from, I think it was the 16th century, 17th century, if my history is right, 17th century, or actually a little later, and he says exactly this. He says, yes, the world has a creator, but God is not, the creator isn't there anymore. He's not necessary. So this is what we studied last week. This week, we're going to be studying about the idea of Ahadut. Ahadut means unity, oneness. And it's a difficult subject to study. I don't want to discourage anybody. But what makes it difficult is that our vocabulary is a bit limited, right? Our ability to discuss the subject is a bit limited. So we have to make an effort, and we have to bring you some examples so that you can understand the idea of unity and oneness. But we know that every day we say, twice a day, we say the following pasuk. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. That's the pasuk we say twice a day, Keriat Shema. And here's the thing. We have to say the pasuk twice a day, you all know that, but it's not enough to say the pasuk. We have an obligation, as we say the pasuk, to actually understand and ponder upon the unity of God. So while you say the pasuk Shema Israel, you're supposed to think about what you're saying. And in order to think about what you're saying, what do you need? You need to understand it. So if you can understand it, you say the pasuk, and now you can ponder upon it. So let's summarize what I'm going to do tonight. I hope that as a result of tonight, if the only thing I accomplish is I enable you to think about the pasuk intelligently and effectively, I've done my mission. I've completed my task, right? So that's what I want to do. I want you to understand this one pasuk, and we have enough time to understand it. The class goes till 9:30. We'll do it. We'll study it. We'll take it step by step. We'll build it up, and we'll do this together. Okay? So if you have the material from last week, flip over one page, the back side of the first page. Look at the top of the page. That's what we're studying today. I'm sorry, not the top. It's actually next to the letter Hey. It's the second paragraph. Okay. Elo hazeh. Ehad hu. This God, he's one. There's one of him. Eno lo shenaim. We don't have two gods, because you know that in the pagan religions, velo yoter al shenaim, we don't have more than two gods. You know that in the pagan religions, they believe that there was many, many gods, right? So they believe in a multiplicity of gods. We reject that notion, right? And for good reason. We reject that notion because we don't believe that God is like a force in the world, but rather we believe that he's outside the world and he pre-exists the world, so he's the one force that manages and takes the world forward, right? So we don't believe in multiplicity of gods. We don't believe in what's called polytheism. Ela ehad she'en keyihudo ehad min ha'ahadim hanimtzaim ba'olam. Now this is what I want you to think about. When we say that there's one God, I want you to think about the following three levels, okay? There's going to be one level of unity, understanding the unity of God. There's going to be a second level, which is going to be even deeper. Again, understanding the unity of God. And then I will take you to the deepest level, the third level, okay? So let's do it level by level by level. Now this is something that there was many Hachamim wrote about. Rabbeinu Bachim Pakuda has in his book, Shara Yehud, about the Yehud of Hashem. We're going to condense everything down to this short class, but I broke it down to these three levels so you can think about it smartly. So let's start with the first level. Harambam writes, Lo ehad kemin shehu kolel ahadim harbe. He is not one in the sense that you have a unique species, and this species has many members. I'll give you an example. Anybody here like exotic places in the world? Visiting exotic places? I know some people like to go to Africa. I have my wife's aunt who recently went to a safari in Africa. She was very excited about it. So there's different exotic places to go to into the world, right? So people like doing that. So let's take an exotic place. Let's choose somewhere really far off. Let's go to Papua New Guinea. Then let's go east of Papua New Guinea. There's an island state. It's a chain of islands. It's called the Solomon Islands. You ever hear of the Solomon Islands? Probably, right? Okay, so this is really far off, exotic place. And let's say you want to go diving into the blue ocean. So you're going sea diving in the ocean. And there you encounter for the first time a sea turtle that glows, a luminescent sea turtle. Now this is a true story. This happened in 2015. In 2015, they found this unique life form. But there's a lot of luminescent creatures, right? We have here fireflies. So I'm excited. My kids will be here from Israel. I say, wow, look at these fireflies, very exciting, luminescent insects. What was interesting here is this is the first and only luminescent reptile in the world. The sea turtle let out this greenish light, a reddish light. So it was fascinating to scientists. So it's the only kind in the world. It's the only kind in the world where you have a reptile which is luminescent. So you say, okay, that's one. That's a unique life form, correct? So you say Hashem is one. Hashem is unique. And is there a difference between the uniqueness, the oneness, let's call it, of that particular species, that luminescent sea turtle? That's a species. Put that in a box. And the oneness of Hashem. Is there a difference between that? You understand my question? Well, yeah, there is. And what is the difference? Because it's true, you have a unique species here. It's the only kind. But there's many, many members. You have many, many sea turtles. So in that category, you have many different members of that particular species. And Rambam says is Hashem is the only member of his kind. There are no other gods like Hashem. So he's the only member of that unique species that pre-existed the world. You understand? So that's one level. That's one level of Achdut, is to say that, yeah, there are many unique things in the world. Okay, I don't know, there's a first time in history that somebody stole first base from home plate, right? Recently happened? Right, unique thing, never happened before. I get these like news feeds on my phone all the time, so again it shows like, this happened and that happens. Okay, so that's unique, right? So no, it's not unique in that sense. There's going to be other people who do that unique feat, right? So that's one level of Achdut. Hashem is beyond that. Let's go to the second level.
That would be like the Greek gods, right?
Well, because in the Greek gods, there was different gods and different forces, and they coexisted, and they...
It's the only one.
Right. So here, okay. Let's go down to the second level. Okay. ולא אחד כגוף שהוא נחלק I'm sorry. לא אחד כמין שהוא כולל אחדים הרבה. ולא אחד כגוף שהוא נחלק למחלקות ולקצוות. And he is not one like a body that can be divided into different parts. And this is level number 2. I'll take you to the second level now. So last week we spoke about William Shakespeare, right? Macbeth. So this week let's bring you Ray Bradbury. Anybody here read Ray Bradbury stories when they were younger?
When we were younger.
Oh, you still read them? Oh. Ray Bradbury. So you read them in where? In school, I guess?
I read it. I heard. He reads it.
Is it a movie? Is it a movie we gotta watch?
He's it for fun.
Oh, movie. I don't know if they made a movie about it, but okay. So one of the books is The Golden Apples of the Sun. It's a series of short stories. And there's one particular story that I found interesting. So it's a guy, it's called The Foghorn. Okay, that's the title of the story. The Foghorn by Ray Bradbury. Okay, follow the story. So there's a guy who works in a lighthouse, in this desolate place. And he lets out the foghorn at night to let the ships know that there's a lighthouse. And, and once a year, there's a strange bellow that comes from the ocean. And the bellow is from this mythical sea creature. And this guy, Macduff, is, I think maybe it's not. No, Macduff is from Macbeth. Okay, whatever. Some name starting with the letter M. This guy, he's talking to his friend who just visited him in the lighthouse, and he's saying, tonight is the night that this creature visits. And he's telling him, I have a theory. What's the theory? My theory is that this creature lives all alone. He's the only remaining sea monster of its kind, and he's completely lonely. He's alone. And when he hears the foghorn, what does he think? He thinks that it's one of his kind that's calling out to him. And in his loneliness, he bellows out and he tries to communicate back with the foghorn. That's the story, and then the story continues, and eventually the sea monster appears and destroys the lighthouse and whatever that is. I hope I should have had what's that called? Trailer. Right, exactly. Okay, whatever. It's a great story. Doesn't matter. Spoiler alert. Right. And nevertheless, the story, and you'll if you read it, you'll see what happens. But the point of the story is it's the only sea creature of its kind. There is no other sea creature like it. So it's not like the luminescent turtle where you have many, many luminescent turtles, right? This is the only one. So let's look at this second level. So is Hashem different? Is Hashem's oneness different than the oneness of this sea monster? You understand my question? In the previous case with the luminescent turtle, we said, wait, there's many luminescent turtles, so it's true that as a species it's unique, but it has many different members. But here there's only one existing creature in the world. So is Hashem's oneness different than this one existing creature? You understand my question? Mm-hmm. And what do you think? Yes, exactly, it is. And what makes it different is that this creature, because it exists in space, it has different parts. It has arms, it has legs, it has eyes. I assume it has very sharp teeth because it's a sea monster. So it has different parts, right? Hashem doesn't have different parts. Hashem is pure whatever. I didn't want to use a word because it's like, let's just say, I'm saying this in a gross fashion, pure intellect. Let's just say that. We're just saying it just so we can like wrap our minds around it. He's pure intellect. There's nothing else there but pure intellect. Hasechel, hamuskal, hamaskil, using the words of Harambam. So there's only one thing there. There are no other compartments. There's no left, there's no right, there's no up, there's no down. There's no leg, there's no nothing. It's just pure intellect. There's one quality. That's what Hashem is. But there's nothing beyond that one quality. That's the second level. Do you want to go to the third level, or you feel like it's already like, you ready? Okay. No, because it's like it's deep stuff. So I get it. Like I was gonna not accept questions till 9. But if somebody has questions, if you want to understand it better, just questions. Meaning, if you're having difficulty, please ask me the questions, and I will be happy to hear them. Seriously, are there? There's 2 marks there, actually. There's 2 marks. There's 2 marks over there, right? But if you have any questions, please feel free. This will be a good place to, before we go to the third level, to hear what your questions are. Okay. All right. So that's it. Till 9 o'clock. All right. So let's continue reading in Harambam. This will be the third level of Achdut.
I have a question.
Okay. Oh wow. I did. One more second. I would have read that word, and that would have been it. Okay. Go ahead.
So when Hashem created Adam, before he created Chava, he was unique by himself. He was the only creature in the world by himself.
Yes.
Nobody like him.
Right. There was nobody like him, and I was actually thinking of bringing that as an example because that's a great example of level number 2. So Adam was the only creature like him. Like himself, there was no other creature. There wasn't even a female, so there was no possibility of having other Adams. But there was a head, there were eyes, there were legs, there was arms, there was different parts to Adam. You understand? So because there were different parts to Adam, you say he's different. He's not one because he has many different parts. But Hashem is pure, whatever you want to call it. I call it intellect because there's no better word in the English language that I can think of. So you see the difference between Adam and Hashem. Hashem is just pure sechel, but nothing else. You see that? What?
No physicality.
No, not only no physicality, there is no different parts of Hashem. There's no different attributes of Hashem. There's a part that's like this, there's a part that's like that. You understand? You get it? Yeah?
Maybe a good word of pure oneness.
Right. And that's what we're trying to say. We're trying to explain how Hashem's oneness is complete and unique. So, okay. So, we're going to do the third level. We have to struggle. We said last week that we have to make this intellectual effort because we want to be good Jews and we want to understand and we want to be intelligent. And it's so important to make that effort so that we're intelligent. So let's go to the third level. I'm going to read it now. We're in Halacha Vav. You see the word ilu? Okay. So let's do it. Ilu hayu ha'elohot harbeh. Now, if we were polytheistic, like the Greeks and the pagans and many different religions, the Hindus, if we believed in polytheism, then there would be many different gods, and these different gods would exist in space. They would have bodies, they would have different shapes. As a Greek god, you have Hercules, who's muscular, and you have whatever. Okay. מפני שאין הנמנים השווים במציאותן נפרדים זה מזה, אלא במאורעים שיראו hagufot v'hageviyot. And in this world, in this polytheistic world, let's say Greek mythology, right? There's different things that happen to the gods at the physical level. I don't know, one god throws a bolt of lightning at the other god, I don't know, and then the god of the other god, I don't know, whatever he does. I'm sorry that I've been away from Greek mythology for a while, but there's fights happening, people get things, gods get injured, gods get displaced, gods rise up in prominence. There's things happening there, right? So that all these events. But here's the point. Once you say that things are happening to these gods, they exist in this world and things are happening and there's this struggle. So what do we know about each one of these gods? There's something that each one of these gods has in common. Every single one has this point in common. Change, correct.
They have their own characteristics.
Each one has its own characteristics. I guess it's more than one thing. Okay? but the most significant thing is each one of these gods is limited.
To a
He's not omnipotent, right? What did you say?
They will have a body.
Right, they have a body and they're limited. They're limited. The proof is that one God can displace the other God. One God can try to push the other one. Maybe he'll fail, maybe he won't. But they're limited, right? So one God controls the lightning. Was that Zeus? Something like that. And then another God controls the wind, and another God controls the rain, and they have different powers. And you see this in the superhero movies. I mean, by the way, just so you understand, people think we're not religious anymore. People think like we're modern. People think that the world has changed, and we're like a secular society, much more advanced, much more scientific thinking, and it's just not true. Because if you look at the movies today, the superhero, I don't watch them, but my kids have them all the time. So I just like I walk into them, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. It's just basically Greek mythology. It's just a different. It's Greek mythology. It's the same psychological forces going on there. And they just take different forms. I don't know, instead of whatever they had in the Greek mythology, they have Aquaman, they have Wonder Woman, they have all these different superheroes. You understand this is a religion, right? I mean, like, the obsession with the superhero movies is a religious obsession. I'm not commenting, I'm not trying to be negative, it's okay. I mean, I used to watch Superman when I was young, and used to watch him jumping over the building, and whatever. It's okay, but just so you understand, it's a religious experience. When you go to a movie and you see a superhero movie, you're actually having a religious experience. It's a polytheistic religious experience, but it's a religious experience nevertheless, right? So in that world, gods have powers, but there's always a kryptonite. Every god has his kryptonite, right? Right? We don't believe because our God is not within the world. There is no kryptonite because the world comes from him, right? The world doesn't control him. You see the difference, right? So he made the rules, right? He is not a product of the world. Rather, the world is a product of him. So there are no limitations to Hashem. Hashem is truly omnipotent in every sense of the word because he's not in the world, but it comes from him. So yesh lekocho kes vasof. And this is what I want to get to. This is what I want to get to in level 3. So let's look at a person. So a person exists in the universe, and it can get really hot, right? So what happens when a person gets hot? He begins to sweat, right? He's uncomfortable. So certain changes happen. So you see the world affects me. Or let's say a person is cold. So he begins to shiver, right? So there's a relationship between us and the world around us. It affects us, right? It changes us. And this is a point that Mikey said before, and but I just want to get in this order, is as follows. There's nothing in the world that changes Hashem or that affects him, right? Because he doesn't exist in the world doesn't change him, right? Right? So if Hashem was changing, if one moment he was like, angry, and then the next moment he was happy, that would be a change, correct? Is that a change? From anger to happy? So that's the
Mood
third.
swings.
What?
Mood swings?
Mood swings, for example. Just one example.
Yeah,
but the
it
point
has
is,
mood swings.
wait. So, correct. So we all have it. So the point is that this is the third level. You understand what the third level is? The third level says that there's nothing there that changes him. It doesn't change. So we said that he's pure intellect. This pure intellect isn't changed by anything around him. You understand the point? I mean,
He doesn't get affected.
He doesn't get affected, right? So Hashem is omnipotent in every sense of the world, and the world doesn't change him because he's not inside the world to get changed. He's aware of the world, he's governing the world, it goes in a certain direction, but he's not changed by it. So these are the 3 levels of unity, and this is what I wanted to really to explain to you today. And I'll show how this connects with the pasuk, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. I'll show you in a moment how that connects with the pasuk, but let me address Mikey's question.
So if that being the case, then so how do we respond to how's tefillah and prayer,
Right.
our prayers, it being answered, or the decree gets changed to something good, or vice versa, etc.
Right.
Where we do see Neach Nicholah, certain things that we see in Tanakh that point towards God's being not happy. Is it his Shekinah, which is outside?
Yeah, no. By the way, you're right.
Outside of him.
You said certain things seem to make him pleased. Let's call it. Yeah.
So we see that his essence is one thing,
Yeah.
it doesn't change. but it's how he relates to mankind.
Okay.
Shekhinah, what do we attribute it to?
All right, so first of all, that's a very good question. I mean, what Mikey is asking is an obvious question. For example, it says that when Hashem created the world, and then 10 generations later, you have the generation of Noah. And what does the pasuk say? It says that it says it says Hashem was saddened in his heart. It actually says he was saddened, right? Oh, okay. I mean, it says so. Or many times it says, Kriyat Shema, every day we say, Hashem will get angry at you. He gets angry. It says so. I mean, you can't ignore these pesukim, of course. Right? So you understand Mikey's question. It's a great question because I just said Hashem is one, and the third level of Hashem's oneness is that Hashem doesn't get affected by the world around him. He's in a perfect state of, an unchanging state of perfection. So how do we explain all these pesukim, which seem to suggest that no, Hashem does get angry. Many times in the pesukim it says Hashem got angry. You understand? So that's a good question. But the starting point is this. This is the starting point. The starting point is that Hashem is completely omnipotent and independent of the world while he's aware of what's happening in the world. So what are these pesukim? How do you explain these pesukim? So Harambam has a book. The name of the book is the Moreh Nebuchim. And the Moreh Nebuchim is the guide to the perplexed. And the very purpose of this book, the guide to the perplexed, is to deal with explaining what do those pesukim mean. What does it mean when we say, for example, sometimes it says, Rahum Mechanun, Hashem has mercy, Hashem has compassion. Moshe Rabbeinu in the Har Sinai says, El Rahum Mechanun, Erech Apayim, Hashem has tremendous mercy, he's compassionate, he looks upon things favorably. What does that mean? Those are great questions. And that's the Moreh Nebuchim, and we will hopefully get to study some of those things. I agree with the question. I just have to acknowledge that I can't address the question fully in one sense, but I will just address it in another sense. So first I said I cannot address it fully, but I can address it in the following sense. So let's say that I'm a magistrate. I'm a judge. And come before me a rich person and a poor person. Now, I'm a mean magistrate. Okay, I'm a mean person. I'm like one of these tough, mean Oriental magistrates, right? No games in my courtroom at all. Okay, and this is it. Like, I'm strict. There's rules, and you have to follow the rules. And the poor person owes him money. So what am I going to do? So he owes him money. Pay out. End of story. A gavel on the table, right? That's it. And then later on, I call my assistant, and I say, the poor person owes a rich person $1,000. I call my assistant. I say, give him $1,000 from my checking account. So I writes a check, gives the poor person $1,000. Okay, now pay the rich person. This is what David HaMelech used to do, by the way. David HaMelech used to do exactly this, right? You know the story?
No, wow.
That's what David HaMelech used to do. Now, what's beautiful about this story is that it shows what a Jewish judge is supposed to be, but it also tells us a little about the ways of Hashem. Hashem, in his actions, he acts with mercy. You can't ignore the suffering of people. You can't. That would be unjust, right? So Hashem created this world, and there's all these challenges, and there's difficult circumstances that we come upon. We can't ignore this difficult circumstance and say, okay, the law is like this. You pay him the money, end the story. Get out of my court. No. Yes, you pay him the money. I'm a judge. There